Welcome back to the Padilla Family Homestead. Today is the first day that we are going to be rehydrating sourdough starter. I purchased a dehydrated sourdough starter from rareseeds.com. Last year in January I purchased some and rehydrated it, got it going, kept it all throughout of 2022, and then after I got injured, well, really close to Christmas, I almost killed it, and then I killed it like shortly afterwards, and I just got injured and I didn't take care of it, my leg, sourdough starter. So went ahead and purchased some more. I've actually had this for a few months, and I've been waiting for me to be back up and going and ready to get back into a routine and take care of my sourdough. So I'm going to take you along with the process. It is a longer process. This one has instructions. I don't do my sourdough starter the exact same way. And so what I'm going to do is show you kind of, I'll tell you what they say to do, and then I'm going to do kind of my version and go from there, because it is a little bit different. So the first thing is you need a clean jar. So I did sanitize this through the dishwasher. You're going to need a scale, and you will need filtered water. You cannot use city chlorinated water or distilled water. So you want to have no chlorine in the water. So if you only have city chlorine water, I believe you can take your water, leave it out on the counter for 24 hours without a lid on. It'll let the chlorine dissipate out of the water, and then you can use it. You can run it through filters. If you have bottled drinking water, you can do that. You can boil water and then let it cool, and then that'll kill the chlorine as well. Today, just for ease of use, I am going to be using a bottle of water. I have done the boiling in my tea kettle, so I'll do water in my tea kettle for a day, and then whatever's left over in that is what I use in the morning or in the evening to do my sourdough starter, and it seems to work just fine. The other thing you're going to need is unbleached flour. So I have unbleached all-purpose white flour. Well, it's a white all-purpose flour, but it's unbleached. So the bleach does what you think it does. It kills germs, it kills bacteria and things like that, and so does chlorine. And so if you have bleached flour and you have chlorinated water, a sourdough is a bacteria. The yeast is alive. It's a good bacteria that you want to have, that's good for your gut health, right? And if you are killing all living things, then you're not going to get your sourdough to grow. So when you're starting it, to activate it, you want to give it the best shot you can, and have it be unchlorinated water and unbleached flour. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take this package. So the reason I'm saying I'm not going to follow the instructions on here is there's a lot of people who do sourdough who do everything by half a cup of this or half a cup of that. I do sourdough by the grams. I weigh it all, and I do a lot of sourdough with fresh milled flour or whole wheat flours, or everything weighs kind of differently depending on how long it's been sitting, how fresh it is, if it's a whole wheat or not, if it has all kinds of stuff in it. So it's easier for me, and I get the most accuracy when I weigh it. So that's just what I do. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and put in my sourdough starter into my jar. Now this says it is 6 grams of starter. So on here it says in big bold letters, do not use chlorinated city tap water or distilled water with this product. Your first step is to mix a half a cup of warm water, like the warmth of a comfortable bath water, with a half a cup of flour. Stir in the dry starter, cover with plastic wrap or a lid, and let stand at room temperature about 24 hours. Now your starter should have some tiny, almost pinpoint size bubbles. So what we're going to do different is I'm going to weigh out, I'm going to weigh out, I'm not going to do a half. I normally do 50, so I'm going to do 100 grams and 100 grams today, because I think, I'm trying to remember what 50 grams is, but I think about 100 grams is going to be close to a cup. Well, I'm doing the 50 like I normally do. So I'm going to take, I have water, I took the bottled water and I put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. It felt too hot to me to put it in there. It's the other thing is you don't want to cook it. So I'm going to go ahead, I let it cool for a minute while we were talking. And I'm going to pour this in. Okay, so I decided to do a little bit more. I'm going to go with 65. The biggest thing is you want them to be even. So 65 grams of water. And I'm going to go ahead and take my paddle here and I'm going to start to mix that in with the water just to get it awake a little bit. So you can kind of see what's going on here. I'm going to zero back out my scale. Grab another spoon. Just going to use my hand. Don't have a whole lot of flour left in this bag. So I'm going for 65 grams of flour. It's going to be much easier with a scoop. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this, and if it's too runny, then I add a little bit more water. But I think we're going to be good. So I really want to take it, and I don't want anything left up on those sides. So because of the dry mix, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add a little bit more water. I should not be balled up like that. So let's see where we add to. So I said that mix was 6. I'm adding 7 grams of water right now just to get it a little bit more. Just going to mix it up, scrape down my edges. I really prefer to do this in a wide mouth. For some reason I didn't have a quart size wide mouth clean. So tomorrow I may switch this over, we'll see. But this is going to sit for 24 hours now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you guys closer and I'm going to show you what this looks like. I'm also going to cover it today because it's handy, and this is in a wide mouth, with a muffin liner. and I'll use a rubber band and I'll put it around here, and this will keep any bugs out, but it'll keep it breathable. So that's the other thing I seem to really like to do. Some people like it on a sealed lid, which is fine, but we're gonna go ahead and do it this way, and then I will bring you back tomorrow afternoon after 24 hours, and we'll show you the difference. I'm going to bring you in close, let you see it now, and then we'll be back tomorrow. Okay, so you can kind of see the texture in there, and then you can kind of see where we are right now. It's not bubbly because it's brand new. You can kind of see where we line up right here. There's like the first dot is right there, so we're right there. And I'm going to take a rubber band and put it over this, and then we'll be back tomorrow. Okay, so we are back for day 2, and this step says, again, to mix a 1/2 cup of warm water and 1/2 cup of flour. So we're going to continue with the 50 or 65 grams of flour and 65 grams of water. No bubbles yet, which is fine. I wasn't expecting any. We're not discarding anything. I'm going to actually not do warm water. I just have room temperature water, so I'm going to do that. So this time we're going to leave 12 hours. So I'm going to zero out my scale, and I have it on grams. I'm going to do 65 grams, give or take. Okay, how about 70, because that's what I poured. And I'm going to start to mix that in a little bit. I'm going to zero out my scale, and I'm going to go back in with the flour. So I'm at 67 on the flour, and I'm going to go ahead and stir that in and kind of see where we are today. You do want to be careful because I'm in a mason jar. I don't mind this fan being on. So when you're actually making sourdough in a bowl, the fan can actually mess up your measurements. It's weird. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to scrape down my edges and really try to stir this in. And we're letting those good bacteria grow. And it's also collecting yeast. It has some from the starter, right? But it, everybody's starter, once it gets going, your skin has wild yeast on it. The air in your home has wild yeast. And so everybody's starter is a little bit different, because we all have different atmospheres in our home. I just really want to make sure there's no big clumps of flour. So again, we're not at discard. We're not discarding. We're just keeping this in here. And I'll be able to tell when it starts to rise. I'm kind of tracking the markers on here. There was no movement, obviously, the first 24 hours. I would kind of be surprised if there was movement on the first 24 hours. Okay, so kind of scrape down those edges. I am going to put my wrapper back on the top. This needs a double wrap. Okay, and we'll see you back here in 12 hours. Almost forgot. So this is where we are. There's something on the outside of the jar. So we're now at this mark on the jar. There's no real bubbles. So we'll see what this looks like in the morning. Okay, so we're starting to see some bubbles just a little bit across the bottom. I'm seeing some bubble action on the top. I don't think you guys can really see it in there, but I am starting to see some action. I did see a little bit of rise yesterday, just a tiny bit, but we're gonna go ahead and feed it now. So I did wait over the 12 hours. It was about 15 hours since I last fed it. And we're gonna go ahead, we're not discarding anything yet, we're almost there, but we're not gonna do it yet. I put my jar on my scale again, and I just zero it out, and I'm gonna feed it. So I'm doing 70 grams of water today. Zero out my scale again. That to fly away. Okay, just about there. I'm going to go ahead and stir it in. Remember to always scrape down those edges really good as you're mixing it in. So tonight's feeding, I should be moving it to a larger jar, I believe, just because when this starts to rise, it's going to try to double in size, and I'm not going to have room in here for it to double in size. So tonight I'll switch it over to a new jar. And that's it, we're all mixed in. I'm going to cover it up and let it sit for another 12 hours, and we'll check it at that point in time. We do this, it says to repeat step 2, which was last night's step, 2 to 3 times. So we're on the second time. We should do it tonight, and then we may do it something different in the morning. We'll see how it's doing, how it's behaving. So we'll see you back here tonight for the next step. So this morning when I started this at 8 a.m., it was right here at this mark at the 12 ounces, and we are up above the 16 right now. So we are already getting a rise, and it is 1:30 in the afternoon. So we are not close to that 12-hour mark at all. So this is good. It means we're getting active. We're seeing some activity in here. It is rising. It is alive and awake. And we'll be back. We'll be back on here at little after 8 o'clock to go ahead and feed this again and get ready for, I'll probably be discarding tomorrow. So that'll be exciting. So we'll see you back here tonight. Okay, so it has not been a full 12 hours yet, and it has already doubled. So I'm going to bring this over and show you. So if you can see, this is where we were, and we are now up here. So we have doubled since the last feeding, which means this is pretty darn active. Hoping you're going to be able to see. Actually, I'm going to tilt the camera. But you can kind of see bubbles, small bubbles, all throughout. Now, one of the reasons why this rose as well as it did today was because I have been cooking in the kitchen, so the house is warmer. So you can see inside the top of this that there are lots of bubbles. It's kind of jiggly. This is very active. So when it says to use active starter, this is what they're talking about when it's has doubled but hasn't started going back down yet. That's when you want to use it. Okay, so I am not gonna just add to it again. So once I hit that double point, I feel pretty confident that it's active. Now, I am not going to use this for loaves of bread yet. I probably will give it another week before I do loaves of bread. Now, if this had not doubled completely, if it had only gone like half of the way up that it was supposed to, I would have fed it again, or even 3/4. I would have done it all over again. But because we got that rise, how it's supposed to be acting on a normal day with a normal active starter, I'm going to go ahead and discard out of this. I'm going to save that discard and probably use it for breakfast in the morning. You can use this discard for waffles, pancakes, cookies, like anything that doesn't require that bread rise. I would give it a week of feeding it before you use it for the bread. And then the other thing is you need to feed it morning and night, keeping it going and keeping it active. And then once you're done and you're like, oh, do you know what, I'm not going to use this for a week, then cover it, put it in the fridge for a week. You can put it in there up to 2 weeks. I have best results feeding it at least once a week. So that is my advice. So at this point, you could discard to make a recipe, and so discard straight into a bowl onto the scale, or you could discard into a container. And I just want to have an idea so I can tell you how much. And you can see it's already stringy. This actually may be halfway decent for bread with how well it rose. I don't know. It may be pretty good here. I'm going to take a good portion of this out. Now, the instructions that this sourdough goes by is by continuing to go with half a cup or with the cup measurements. And I really do, I weigh. That is what I do. Let's see how much I have in this jar. I still have a ton in this jar. So unless I am baking a bunch, I don't keep like a ton of starter. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit more of this out, and I definitely have enough to do waffles in the morning with this. Plus I'll have more discard in the morning. I just really want to get these edges cleaned down. And I brought it back down all the way down to here. And that's where I'll try to keep it as I feed it. All right, so now I'm going to switch this out. And I'll put a lid on this and put it in the fridge and store that for tomorrow. Now this, I'm going to go ahead and zero out the scale for this. I need to bag up my flour here and jar it up. This is what I'm working out of now. So I'm going to go ahead and add 65 50 to 65. I'm at that point now where I'm going to keep it small. So I went to 53. Stir that in just a little bit. Reset the scale and do 53 flour. And like I said, people do sourdough all different ways. Because I switch, I've said it earlier in this video, but I'm going to reiterate it. Because I use home milled flour and whole wheat flour, and I also use bagged all-purpose that's organic, unbleached. Everything weighs different amounts, so it's easier for me to get successful loaves of bread or successful recipes when I'm using the correct weights. So just keep that in mind if you're having issues doing recipes where it's a half a cup of this or a quarter cup of this. Try weighing it and see if it makes a difference. Because it made a big difference for me. It was a game changer. So I highly, highly suggest it. I'm gonna mix this in. I love it. It's so stringy and it's alive. I was talking to it early, going, just grow, stay alive. My mom's like, who are you talking to? My sourdough. I don't name it. I just call it sourdough, my starter. But my precious. Okay. So we are mixed in. I'm probably tomorrow gonna switch the jar. I didn't get my wide mouth through the dishwasher today, and I really want this in a wide mouth or in a weck jar. And I ordered a new weck jar because my other weck jar has stuff in it. So tomorrow, hopefully, I will switch this out into a weck jar. But for now, this is done. I have a fully active starter. This is now ready to start using, and it's amazing. If you are looking for sourdough starter, I have used rareseeds.com. I do know that Ballerina Farm and Whispering Willow also have their own sourdough starters that are dehydrated, so you could check them out if you want to support them. Just find whoever you want to get a dry starter from, or even if you want to skip this part of restarting it, get a discard from somebody. It's the same thing. I could take that, I could feed that, and start a second jar of sourdough starter. So you can just get some discard from somebody and go from there. I really hope that you start getting into sourdough, that you plunge in and have fun with it. I am excited to be back in sourdough, but my daughter can't eat it because it has gluten. So we are hopefully going to be tackling some, our goal for this fall is to tackle gluten-free loaf bread. So we'll see what we come up with. We're gonna play with other people's recipes, make our own recipe, and have fun with it. So stay tuned for that, but definitely get you some sourdough, get it going. It doesn't take that much to get it started, as you saw. I think I'm on day 3. So just get in, do it, and have fun with it. Keep it alive, but if you kill it, get another one and start over again. Okay, we thank you for joining us. I look forward to showing you some recipes with this. And so subscribe if you haven't yet, and stay around, and we'll see you on the next video.